Forgive me. Like I said, we have different speakers every week, like Dallas Graham. But having said that, you will see there is no one like Dallas Graham. He's fantastic. By way of introduction, there's lots of things I could say about him. I'm going to make this very brief. He's an artist. He's an activist. He's an advocate. He is insanely entertaining, but most of all, he's somebody who just does a lot of good. So please join me in welcoming Dallas Graham.
Wow. Thank you. He's so nice. Wow. This morning, just real quickly, you guys, I went up the canyon. Nicole, is that? Hi. Oh my gosh, Nicole. What's up, girl? Oh my gosh, it's been a minute. That's my friend. I didn't expect to see her. I haven't seen her in like 8 years. Hi. You guys, there's a canyon right there, and it's gorgeous. And I woke up this morning, and I had a late flight coming in, and so I was like, I've got to get up there. And I drove up. Guess what? It's like 20 minutes from your house. Like, it's right there. And I have a niece that just is her first semester here, and I'm just going to force her to go up that canyon every weekend and understand what Cedar Breaks is, right? Wow, guys, this is right in your backyard. I hope you're utilizing it. Nature plays a big part in just my life and my quality of life. It brings a lot of beauty. And I also like art. I like visual things. I'm happy and stimulated by gorgeousness. And a little bit of what I'm sharing is actually some of what I shared last week. I was here for the Artist Insight speaking series, and so I'm going to share a little bit of things with you there. How many of you do like art, though, by show of hands? I mean, just generally art, right? Okay. Well, I was thinking about portraiture, and what is portraiture? And I was kind of, trying to get kind of, really blatant about what is it, and then abstracting the idea. And what I started coming to the point of, and again, my background is in art. I went to art school. I also did design and photography and writing, et cetera, et cetera. You'll see how that comes together. But I actually did study fine art for a while with a painter outside of Switzerland, who's still one of my favorite people that I go and see every year. One of the things we learned was how to draw. I learned how to draw and see and paint. And portraiture, is as old as Da Vinci, right? Is just this relationship between me, the one who's trying to portray, and her, or the subject being portrayed, right? I think generally speaking, can we agree like that's portraiture? This person here, sitting opposite, making an impression of this person. Is that a nod? Can we agree on that? Yeah, it's portraiture. And as times evolved, and as times got close to our times, we would see different ways that portraiture started changing and more abstracted. Still portraiture, right? Still a portrait, right? But probably not as realistic as the Mona Lisa. Yeah, even more abstracted, but still a portraiture, right? Oh, like film, when that happened. How many remembers this from National Geographic cover? She's actually, probably 35 years older now, but this girl with the green eyes was one of the covers of National Geographic. And then I was thinking about a great photographer that I love. His name's Ansel Adams, and I'd like you to read this out loud.
With all art expression, when something is seen, it is a vivid experience, sudden, compelling, and inevitable.
One more time, just for emphasis.
For those in the back. With all art expression, when something is seen, it is a vivid experience, sudden, compelling, and inevitable.
I loved this so much. By the way, you should read his autobiography. It's really funny and incredible. And did you know he was going to be a concert pianist? He was actually thinking of becoming a concert pianist before he decided to do photography, and then decided photography. Like, that's how good he was. But I liked this part, right? Like, what are we really, really seeing? Portraiture is a lot about seeing, and I know that sounds like, well, no, duh. But there's inner sight, too. There's an inner seeing. And art, a lot of times, you know, are you really seeing it? But today I went out in this gorgeous art up the canyon, and it was a vivid experience. It was sudden. It was very compelling. It was inevitable. And I really like this idea. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. There's a lot of beauty out there that will inevitably bring you to it, or you will inevitably come to it and become a part of that relationship. I really like that idea. I'm now going to jump a little personal because whereas the last slides, this was the person portraying this person, so this was the actual artist. I'm going to now change the name because the people I'm going to portray are the people I work with. So it's not my name going to be down here, it's the person I'm portraying. Nathan Glad is the happiest boy you will meet. He takes nothing for granted and is completely genuine in his passion for people and life. You'll never find a more grateful boy. His very first words when he was able to speak were "gank you." Nathan has a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. Another common term for babies that are born are called snowflake babies because they come out broken. He's 11 and he's broken over 200 times. And this is Nathan. This is a portrait of Nathan. This is another portrait of Nathan. That's his arm. He's so delightfully happy, this kid. This is Shay. She's super vibrant. She loves ladybugs. She loves to make people laugh. And in February 2013, she was diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma. Melanoma is cancer on the skin, in case you don't know that. She's got a really spitfire spirit, though. This is another portrait of Shay as well. This is my buddy Colin. Are we good? It took a long time for his family to find out what was going on with Colin. Because he was unable to eat. And then the doctors finally found out he has a terminal disease called mitochondrial disease. And it's good, I'm flexible. It's called mitochondrial disease. And that means all the mitochondria in every cell of his body are broken. Now, anyone in the sciences, biology classes, or just remember maybe what mitochondria do? Let's not put you in a box. Maybe you just know that. Mitochondria are the energy sources in our cells. So if the mitochondria is broken, your cell doesn't have the energy to do what it needs to do to live. And all of his are broken and they're not going to get better. So how do you do it all? What do you do? He's also very determined and really spunky, and he made a really great book with me. In fact, all these kids have made books with me. This is my buddy Luke. He's from Pennsylvania. He has a very interesting story because he was left on the steps of the hospital as an infant. And the nurse picked him up and she took him inside and immediately knew something was wrong, something was different. He has an interstitial child lung disease, which means his lungs were bad. And this is another picture of Luke. That's a statistic. Because of his condition, he had to have a double lung transplant. And before I had met his mom and talked to her about him, I was like, there are lung transplants? This was just like last year. I didn't really realize there were lung transplants. I mean, I was like, yeah, I guess, but I was like, and I was asking Heather, I was like, give me the prognosis. She's like, 1 in 2. when she goes, 1 in 2 people die. It's literally 50-50 if you go through with the procedure. He lived. He's alive. But he needs to walk like 3 miles every day. It's really hard on his lungs. But he has someone else's lungs, and he loves that. He loves to tell people that too. He's like, I have someone else's parts inside of me, and they've made me live. All right, I'm going to share this quote now. Can you read this for me?
I can.
Thank you.
Success in life is founded upon attention to the small things rather than to the large things, to the everyday things nearest to us rather than to the things that are remote and uncommon. Booker T. Washington.
Thank you. Just take a sec on this one, yeah? I think this is portraiture as well. It's attention to things that might be small, but they're near, right? That's portraiture, right? Everyday things, close, not far, obscure, close, near, right? So I'm going to tell you about some little things. I've already told you about little people, but it's all going to come together a little bit more about what is this that I'm doing? Why did you guys want me to come back? Because it's very specific, but it deals with books, and it also deals with punctuation. So I was sitting on my balcony a few years ago, and it was like a gorgeous autumn day, and I was watching the farmer's market take its gorgeous rounds. I live in Salt Lake City, and I saw these little birds, my little house sparrows bopping around. They really make me happy every day. They're kind of like the mouse of like the bird world. It's really funny. But I'm just seeing them bop around, and I have this thought that flies into my head. I wonder if I can make a bird out of a comma. Okay, where'd that come from? I don't know. So I went down on my Mac exactly like this, and then I enlarged it 500 times. And then I put undo, and I did that again. I was like, oh my goodness. So then I was like, oh my gosh, this looks like a bird body. So I went, and then I took his legs and went, took his eye, boom. And then the beak, I took this little point right here, this white one, or this part of this, and I just went, So it was like that. And in 5 minutes, guys, there it was. And I said this, I promise I said this. I said, hey, you are gonna change my life, bird. Who are you? Who are you? Well, you're red. Yeah, you're red, because you just, and I had already colored him. I'm just like, you're red, and you should be red Fred. Because red is in Fred, it's nice alliteration, but you look like a gentleman bird, and you should have a last name. Oh my gosh, you're Red Fred Bedoni. That's the typeface he's from, or more commonly known as fonts. And suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, you're Red Fred Bedoni. Like, of course you are. Huh. Wait, if you're Red Fred Bedoni, then what about the other commas? And then I just started having fun. And interestingly, all the commas are different. All of them are different. They're all the same, but they're all different. Holy cow, how many commas are there? There's lots. This is a portrait of Red Fred. He's the leader of the Jolly Troop, and the Jolly Troop are all the birds that I make. They're all the friends. They come in different shapes, sizes, and colors, and they like to do things together. Red Fred's kind of, cheery. He's got like a really bubbly personality. He's like everyone's like pal. He's a good ringleader, and he's like an eternal optimist. Blackjack, who's his best friend, is not so optimistic. He's a little like downer. He's really annoyed by girls, but he's super daring. And if you need someone to jump off a cliff, it's Blackjack. Yvette is the queen. She loves Paris and everything that to do with that. She loves fashion. She's a bit of a diva. And when it comes to someone, though, that really has the biggest heart, though, it's her. Magnus is a brainiac. He has a very deep voice, and when people say he's cute, he's like, please don't say that. He knows 18 languages and is a real know-it-all. This is Algernon, and everyone loves Algernon. He's everyone's favorite. Stilts is super zen, super chill, like a surfer guy. Just like will not get ruffled. Like just doesn't, it doesn't bother him. He just won't, you know. He keeps everyone chill. Penny's the planner. She loves costumes and Halloween and going on trips, and she prefers running to flying. And the Heffler twins, we still don't know their names. They just go by the upper twin and the under twin. She and a he. And they fight a lot. They have that sibling dynamic, but they also stick together, even though they fight. So I made the Jolly Troop. They just delighted me. This wasn't a paid gig. It wasn't something I was making money on the side. I just wanted to start telling stories with these birds. So I started taking photographs of beautiful places. Places like, you know, that canyon. I would probably tell a story. I'd go and shoot gorgeous things and put the birds in it. Pretty simple art when you consider I used to be a painter and a drawer. This, though, made sense. This sort of beautiful reality, and then this flat bird, just like, you know? I moved to New York City for a while and was exploring this a lot, all the while doing something else professionally. And the story started to expand. There were these short stories where, you know, I wanted to talk about transcendence at Ralph Waldo Emerson's house. How do we transcend? And so, you know, I had a story about that. Or when one of the birds was leaving the troop for a while for unexplained reasons, we likened it to like taking down a bridge, like the Brooklyn Bridge. It might be hard to put up a bridge, but it is really hard to take down a bridge. And sometimes when you leave your friends, it feels like you're taking down that bridge. So we talk about things like that. And one of my favorites was this one when they met Silas. That's Silas, he's the blue one. And they had they had immediate confrontation. So Red Fred was like, hey, before we get too far into it, let's just all try to discuss everything over ice cream with ice cream in our mouth as we discuss it. Because he knew that would change the energy of the whole thing. So we talked about silly things, we talked about sometimes sad things. We just talked about things, though, that were real and important. And then in 2012, in December, another portrait came into my life. I didn't shoot it. This little boy's father shot this photograph. This is Mitchell. My sister called me in December one night. She said, Dallas, get on Facebook and look up Mitchell's journey. So I did. And I saw these gorgeous photographs, but they were really hard to look at because I could immediately tell there was something going on, something real. This kid is sick. So I was like, Jen, my sister, I was like, what is this? So we found out it's my friend's son. I haven't seen her in 20 years. And he was born with a disease called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which mama carries. Mama never knows it. And then she has her son, and one of her sons will have it. And the doctors say it's going to be short. He will never live past 20. So if he makes it to 12, maybe. But you just need to start thinking about that. So my sister and I were on the phone. We started crying in the way when and I still get emotional about it because this is real, guys, right? All of you, I bet, right now, you have someone you love, someone you know, and there's someone special and little and dear in their lives, and it's just hard, and you want to do something, right? Remember that feeling and hope that it always comes back. I want to do something. I want to do something. Just because you can and you love these people. Because you have arms and a brain and a heart. Because you're a really great rock climber, or you're a really good sewer, or you're really good on a skateboard. Like, you can do all these things. And you have these gifts and these talents and these interests that are just easy for you. They just come naturally. You're just into it. Remember that, and that you have those things so that when people need help and you're like, what can I do? I urge you to start doing those things. So I thought, I can make a book. And that's when Red Fred landed on my shoulder. He's like, Dallas, we want to make books with him, with Mitchell. So I wrote his parents, actually. I said, you guys, I know this is none of my concern or business, really, but I can make books with kids. I've got these birds. They love kids. And the kids love my birds. And I know it's getting really dark now. But we should ask Mitchell what he wants to tell everybody. And I know he's not going to go to design school, and I know he's not going to become a writer. But he doesn't have to. Because I'm a designer, and I'm a writer, and I'm awesome at it. And so all I need to do is talk to him and ask him one question, and that is, hey Mitchell, if you could write a book for the entire world to read, what would it be about? Because he can be 10 and answer that question. And then I can just use my grown-up muscles. I can just make it happen. The schedule of trying to meet was like hopscotch and leapfrog. We've got to go to the doctor. Sorry, we couldn't get back. We've had to try another treatment. Let's try for next week. And a week before this date, his dad texted me. He said, Dallas, we love that you wanted to do this. I'm sorry, but we're going home for the final time. We're just going to be home because Mitchell wants to go home. And we love the idea, but we can't do the book. And on the 4th, this little star left the planet. He's the star in our logo. And the day he died, something switched and changed in me. And I don't say this happens all the time, but there are certain times in our lives where all things come into clarity. Like everything just gets clear really quick. And it's like, oh, it's not blurry. This is like crystal clear. And what was that? I suddenly saw, I was like, oh, there's a whole group of people on this planet. These are children who live in extraordinary circumstances. That means to me they have rare diseases or critical illnesses, or they're limited in their lifetime. I call that extraordinary. They're here right now. There's some in Cedar City. Like they're here. There's like a whole populace. And so I was like, well, we've got to find these children and start asking them questions and making books with them. Because I bet they know a lot of really interesting things. So I had to find another little first, and you already saw another portrait of him, but this is Nathan. This is the day I met him. This is when I met him. And when I was like, hey Nathan, let's make this book. I was like, what's that on your arm? He goes, oh, I broke today. I'm like, how? He goes, Jason leaned on me. It was his brother over there. Not in a bad way. Jason just went like this, and it broke his arm that day. So we wrapped it up. I'm like, are you okay? He's like, totally. Can we get to my book? Yep. So we found a comma. It took us a couple hours. And we named him Blue Lightning. Well, first his name's Blue. And then he gets his lightning strike later, but Blue. And I was like, Nathan, he's black. He goes, I know, Dallas, but his name's Blue. He's like, he laughed. He's like, he's a little black bird named Blue. And I was like, Nathan, where should it take place? He goes, well, it can't really go anywhere. So, I mean, maybe the apple tree could be something really important in the story. And we don't have like a really dark place, but we have a garage. I was like, perfect. So you won't know it, but all this took place in a place very special to Nathan. That was his home. Then we had a book signing. And you already know, like, that was probably one of the coolest days of my life. Hundreds of people came to a parking lot and got their book signed by Nathan. And his mom was like, Dallas, I really don't know if he can like stay up the whole time because that's physically exerting, and like physicality is hard for this boy. He stayed and he like closed it out. Like he was there through the whole night. And these people were lining up for epiphanies. That's why they came. Because they knew what it was going to be. Are you looking for epiphanies? I want epiphanies all the time. I just want a change of my eyes and my heart that helps me feel alive and connected. And everyone that came that night, it was amped. Why? Because we also launched a Kickstarter. Do you guys know what Kickstarter is? Crowdfunding, sourcing thing on the web, right? Thing is, you have to reach your goal in the set time or no one's pledges go through. It's all or nothing. And I thought, I think I need to raise $75,000 in 30 days. I've never done this before. 3 days to go. This is our Kickstarter site. Oh my gosh. So on 2 days left, I was just like on the sofa typing. I'm literally hitting up every single person I know on the planet Earth and being like, I've never asked you for anything, but you've got to throw down some money right now. So I'm doing it and I get this text message, ding, Dallas, go to Twitter. And this guy, who some of you may know, if not, I'll just let you look him up. He's kind of a big deal in books and literature and in London, all over the world. Kind of cult following. People just like love his books and eat them all up. And I just started bawling. I started crying and I hit refresh and the total went like this. And I hit refresh and it went like this. And I hit refresh and it went like this. And in 2 hours, $40,000 came in. 1,428 people contributed all over the world. And I ugly face cried so hard when it happened. It was my boyfriend at the time who's just like, I was a little bit like, really? You gotta shoot this? But actually I'm so glad about it now. It was a very important day in my life. Because I knew what I was gonna do. I totally knew what I was gonna do. The Red Fred Project finds children living in extraordinary circumstances, rare diseases, critical illnesses, life-limiting situations, and asks them the question, if you could write a book for the entire world to read, what would it be about? The stories are filled with humor, compassion, and wisdom. The books we create together become a vehicle for these stories. They become a lasting voice, a tangible achievement for each child. As part of the proceeds from each book sold go to the family to a related cause chosen by the child. The books are also a way to help with financial difficulties. You see, the magic multiplies. It lives on forever. You'll be inspired by the talent and imagination of these children. Each of the birds has a word that portrays them, or is a portrait. These are the words that are in our bones in the Red Fred Project. So how do I do this? Make these books? I ask the kids a lot about themes first. Is it a book about bravery, or surprises, or facing your fears, or in being yourself, or feeling loved, or trusting friends, or being grateful? Or is it just something magical? And then where is it going to take place? We can't go to Paris, but we can pretend it's Paris. So the kids think of places that are really important to them. And though it doesn't tell you that in the book, everything that you're seeing in this book the kid was right with me when we were photographing it, because they're like, I kind of like this shot, Dallas, and I kind of like the bird up here. And this is where the birds are sitting on the edge of the teacup talking. So the kids are like art directing. That's called art direction. They're like, okay, this is the scene, this is what I like, this is where I'm seeing the birds. They don't have to worry about getting technical. The whole time I'm just like, where, yeah, sweating. Then they're a trooper. I teach them about typography and how there's differences in letter shapes that give different feelings. That's Algernon. So here's some of our kids. That's Shay's the bird Daisy. Daisy's like super tiny, obviously. You can kind of see in comparison. She has ladybug marks and she's confused. In her book, she almost gets eaten by her own kind because she looks so like a ladybug, which was like a big part of her story, you know. This is Collins. And this was Charlie. Charlie, this character, has superpowers. And the bird, whenever he touches food, it turns to worms. But the worms can transport anything anywhere at any time. This is Kid Kino. He has a robotic arm. And this is Cassidy. This is by Megan, my little buddy from Massachusetts. Here's another statistic and a portrait. This is Megan. She's one of 300 children in the world who have progeria. It's called rapid aging disease. She looks like she's 87, but she's only 15. And her dad, when I was calling all these lovely families, I was like, Bill, I need some things. And he goes, Dallas, I have this idea. And I go, what is it? And he goes, what if we do this? This is my Megan. Is it playing? It's not. Oh. Is it? Oh, shoot. Well, shucks, you guys. Okay, well, I'll show you another photo of our Megan. Look at that beautiful face. She's always wanted to be a writer. She's actually already been in publishing in magazines. She's only 15, but she's wanted to make a book. And she knows she's not going to live much longer. Kids with progeria don't usually they don't live past 20. But she goes to school every day. She's like healthy as a horse right now. But in a couple of years, she knows her body's going to start giving out. So we visited Amherst, Massachusetts. We watched this city, went to the cafe that she loves. She told me, she goes, Dallas, if I was a writer, I would come to this cafe all the time. And I'd write here and drink cocoa until I could drink coffee. Went to her school track. Because she's actually on a track team, you know. She runs like a demon. She's so smart. She's like wicked smart. Dallas, do you think there could maybe be a sunset in the book? I was like, maybe. Let's get one. Her book's called Running on the Wind. It's about this little bird named Cassidy who was born under a rock. But she's a bird, and so she never learned to fly. So she's got really good and she's adapted to running. She's super fast, which makes her really good friends with Penny. When they were little, they met in like a meet. Because Penny loves running and Cassie loves running, two friends. They love to run. But as she got older, there was this moment in time with her friends, and they were like, you never fly anywhere and you're a bird. Like, what's up? And they're like, you're not a penguin. And she's like, I know. But they're like, why don't you tell us? And so she finally breaks, and she goes, well, because I grew up in a rock, in a cave. And they're like, you did? And she's like, yeah. Like, I never got pushed out of the nest. I never could learn. And her friends were like, well, we're going to change that. So they race up to her house, though, to see where this cave is. It's up in the mountain, and they get this really gorgeous view. And Penny suddenly goes, I understand. When you can see the world from the sky, it doesn't really matter if you can run or fly. So her friends left, and Cassidy just was determined to learn how to fly. And so she would jump off things and run and flap. And she would jump off things and run and flap. And then, like a lot of things, when it really comes down to the specific moment, she got pushed by a gust of wind, and she was plummeting. And she started running. She just in that desperation moment, like running and flapping. And suddenly, it all started coming together, and she went right up. Because she was using her legs, too, that she'd been using the whole time. So suddenly, and quite fun, in a fun way, she looks really funny when she flies. Because she runs and she wings. And that's the way she flies. Megan, where do you want to have your book signing? Well, I'd always dreamed about having one at Barnes & Noble. I called it Barnes & Noble. Hi, this is what I'm doing. And in 30 seconds, they're like, totally, yes, we'll do it. And people came from hours away and showed up for her. And the store manager, with tears in his eyes halfway through, was like, Dallas, this is the coolest thing we've ever done, ever. And it's the most books we've ever sold. He's like, this is crazy. We sold out of books. At the end of every book, there's 2 lessons I ask the kids. I say, you get 2 little sunshine badges, you guys, to say what you want to say to the world in these 2 little lessons. And they can't ever be the same as anyone else's. These are Megan's, which are another portrait of her. And if she was here, this is what she wants you to know. That's what all the kids, what I'm about to share, they are telling you, this is what they want you to know, that they believe is part of your experience and my experience. This is what they believe.
Will you read them out loud?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Lesson 1 for Megan, if you trust yourself, it will all be okay in the end. Number 2, you can do anything if you set your mind to it. Says the 15-year-old who's facing impossible odds to a group of 20-something people who have the world as their oyster. Lesson 1, sometimes our dragons help us. Lesson 2, when we're brave and go on adventures with our friends, we become stronger. Shay, lesson 1, sometimes you just have to be brave. Lesson 2, a brave heart and good friends make storms easier. Colin, lesson 1, courage and bravery come in all shapes and sizes. Lesson 2, never doubt the strength and courage in your heart. Luke, lesson 1, true friends love you just the way you are. Sometimes, sometimes you need someone else's parts to make you whole. Nathan gets money from his books, and guess what? He sends it back to me. Shay made a bench. I didn't tell him to do this stuff, These kids just like have wills, Shay, with her money, she made a bench on her school property where if you didn't have a friend, you can come sit there. It's called the friendship bench. Colin needs every penny he can get because his life is so out of whack. Medications prices are so high. There's been a world-class play that's been produced from one of our books. Dance companies are starting to use the content. Some Tony Award winners have read our books. I've seen so many portraits of people that are coming in and joining in this project and helping me get it where it needs to be, which are books in your hands. And that's where I'm going, that's where I need to be, and that's where I hope you, if you feel the urge, whatever it is, would love your help. There's probably going to be something like, well, what are you really good at? What are you excited about? That's probably the best way you can help me. There's other ways too. And then lastly, I just want to encourage you to find out what you're good at. There's already something, a few things. Don't let go of those. It's important to also pursue things that challenge you. But there's reasons that you're excellent at certain things. And when you use excellence and you use ease, something that's easy too, right? Not uphillish, but like, what are you good at? Like, what can you just like cut through? Lean into those. That's where you're going to shine the brightest. That's where you can show up the best part of yourself to help other people. And then do something with a demographic you never thought you were going to do anything with. Reach out to someone who's entirely different from you. Find the bridge, hold hands together, make some laughs, get real, and then just sit across from each other and study each other's portrait. Make that portrait of that other person. Thank you very much. Oh, wow.
So we'd like to present you with a bird of our own.
Whoa, yeah, I love it.
This is the Thunderbird Award and
Thank
recognition
you.
Of the service you've given our
Thank
community.
you. You guys, thanks.
And one
love
other thing,
birds.
if you're interested in helping out, the best thing you can do is come. This is kindly right here. We've got some spots for lunch. We're going to have lunch with Dallas, and this would be a good chance to get to know him a little bit better and a chance to get involved.
Yeah.
So, thanks everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks. Put that right up in the office. Thanks so much, man.